Ever felt like the market hunts your stop loss the moment you place it? The same game once turned a single click into $1.9 billion. Jesse Livermore, there are 4 rules that decide whether you walk out of the market alive, or whether the market quietly buries you without even marking the grave. You see, every trader I've ever met knew, experienced, or legendary eventually learns one truth: the market is not a game of predicting price. It's a game of surviving long enough for your decisions to matter. And as I sit here, reflecting on years of my own battles with fear, greed, euphoria, collapse, and the strange silence that follows a devastating loss, I realize something Jesse Livermore understood long before any of us did. A trader's greatest achievement is not making money. It's surviving long enough to learn why they lost it. What about you? If you were forced to choose just one rule to survive the markets, what would it be? Comment your answer below. Now, let's begin this journey. I remember the first time I discovered Jesse Livermore's writings, not through a book, but through the pain of my own mistakes. I had blown up an account, not a catastrophic one, but enough to bruise my ego so deeply that it felt like the market itself was mocking me. If you've ever felt that sting, if you've stared at your screen, wondering how a small mistake spiraled into something irreversibly, already know the essence of market survival. But Livermore didn't just survive these moments. He studied them, dissected them, and ultimately turned them into universal principles that echo through every generation of traders. And today, we're decoding his 4 rules of market survival, the same rules that kept him alive in the most chaotic markets of the early 1900s. Rules that modern traders ignore at their own peril. So before we dive into the psychology, the stories, the traps, and his timeless wisdom, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a roaring ocean. The waves are unpredictable. Some rise quietly, others crash without warning. The ocean doesn't care about your strategy. It doesn't care about your feelings, your expectations, or your past wins. It only responds to your discipline. That ocean is the market. And Livermore's 4 rules. They are the life raft. Not glamorous, not exciting, but essential. In every era, whether it's the tape-reading pits of Livermore's time or the algorithm-infused world we trade in today, the same forces control every decision. Fear of missing out, fear of losing what we already have, greed, dressed up as confidence, hope, disguised as patience, and the most dangerous force of all, the belief that this time will be different. Livermore fought these battles too, not inside a digital interface, but inside himself. That's why his rules weren't technical rules. They were survival rules, because the market, at its core, is a psychological war disguised as a financial opportunity. And Livermore understood something that most traders never fully accept. Markets don't beat you. Your own impulses do. But here's the twist. Most traders don't want survival rules. They want winning rules. They want shortcuts. They want the secret indicator. They want assurance. Yet survival isn't glamorous until you realize that every legendary trader who ever lived was simply the best survivor. Livermore wasn't trying to get rich quickly. He was trying to stay alive long enough for the right opportunities to appear, because opportunities always return. Capital does not. The 4 survival rules, a teaser. In this documentary, we'll break down these 4 rules in depth, but first I want you to feel the weight of them. 1. Cut losses always, immediately, without negotiation, not emotionally, not after the market comes back, but the instant the trade breaks your premise. 2. Let winners grow bigger than your fears. Most traders let fear cap their profit and hope multiply their loss. Survival flips this dynamic. 3. Avoid the middle of the market trade, only your edge. Livermore called it the dangerous middle, a place where winning feels random and losing feels personal. 4. Stay out of the market when the signals are unclear. He believed cash was not just safe. Cash was a position, a strategic advantage, a weapon. Each one of these rules seems simple, but they are the kind of simple that takes a lifetime to master, or a single mistake to regret forever. And that brings us to the reason we're telling this story today. Because the modern trader, bombarded with noise, algorithmic traps, social media illusions, and toxic urgency, needs these rules more than ever. Not to become rich quickly, but to survive long enough to become wise. So as we step further into this story, I want you to sit with one question. How many of these rules have you broken recently? And why? Because in the next section, we're diving into the cinematic conclusion, the emotional heartbeat of Livermore's journey, the psychological crossroads, and the final message that every trader must hear before risking another dollar in the market. In the end, the market doesn't crown the smartest trader. It crowns the one who finally learns to stop fighting himself. As I bring this journey to a close, I want to take you into the final moments, the true heart of Jesse Livermore's philosophy. Not the part written in books, not the part repeated by trading gurus, but the part he lived, alone, in silence, with only the weight of his decisions echoing back at him. Because survival, true survival, isn't about charts, setups, or technical precision. It's about understanding the one force that has destroyed more accounts than any market crash in history. The trader's own mind. And that is where Livermore's legacy ultimately leads us. The final revelation. When Livermore reflected on his greatest wins and his greatest collapses, he realized something haunting. I made most of my money by sitting, not by trading. But what he didn't say explicitly, yet lived painfully, was this. He also lost most of his money when he stopped listening to his own rules. The rules we discussed, the 4 rules of survival, were not invented for discipline. They were invented from suffering. Every rule was born from a mistake that nearly ended his career, a misjudgment that almost wiped him out, a moment where he believed he was smarter than the market, only to learn the market has a cruel way of humbling pride. And as I reflect on my own journey, I realize something every trader eventually confronts. There is a version of you in the market, the confident version. And there is the real version of you, the one exposed when your stop loss gets hit, your plans fall apart, and your emotions take the wheel. Survival is about reconciling these 2 versions of yourself. So imagine this scene. You're alone in a dim room, lit only by the glow of your trading screen. The market is moving, candles racing up and down like heartbeats in motion. You place a trade. It moves against you a little, then a little more. That familiar voice whispers, just a few ticks more. It'll come back. You know it will. But another voice, the quieter one, the one that often loses. This is how it always starts. This moment, right here, this private confrontation between hope and discipline, is the real market. Not the charts, not the indicators. This fragile second where your survival depends on which voice you obey. Livermore understood this better than anyone. He knew the market's danger wasn't the crash or the rally. It was the whisper, the hesitation, the justifications we invent to protect our ego instead of our capital. And that's why his rules weren't just rules. They were shields. There comes a point in every trader's life when the losses hit harder than they should. A point where the charts blur, your confidence cracks, and you wonder whether you should keep going at all. Livermore felt it too. He admitted it openly. There were nights he couldn't sleep. Days he questioned his ability. Moments he wondered whether he still belonged in the arena. But here's what separates survivors from casualties. He returned to his rules every time. He didn't return to hope. He didn't return to predictions. He didn't return to revenge trading. He returned to discipline, because the rules were the only part of trading that did not lie to him. Breakthrough. In his final reflections, Livermore wrote that trading success is not built on brilliance, but subtraction. You remove the impulses. You remove the noise. You remove the trades that don't fit your edge. You remove the urge to always be in the market. You remove the ego that wants you to be right rather than safe. And once everything unnecessary is stripped away, only the truth remains. Most traders don't need more strategy. They need less interference. When you understand this, the 4 rules stop being advice and start becoming survival instincts. Applying it to you. Today, you live in a world far more chaotic than Livermore's era. Algorithms, frequency manipulation, endless news cycles, social media noise, disguised as wisdom. But ironically, his rules matter now more than ever. Because the more noise the market creates, the more clarity a trader needs. So here's what survival looks like for the modern trader. You cut your losses the moment your premise breaks. You let your winners grow without sabotaging them out of fear. You trade only when your edge is present, ever out of boredom. And you embrace cash as a position, not a failure. Survival is not exciting, but it is consistent. And consistency compounds quietly into greatness. So, if you take away one message from this documentary, let it be this: the market doesn't reward the bravest trader. It rewards the last trader standing. Your goal is not to conquer the market. Your goal is to endure it, to respect it, to survive it long enough to witness the opportunities that only patience reveals. Livermore learned this truth at a heavy cost. You don't have to. And now, as I close this final chapter, I leave you with a question that matters more than any indicator or strategy you'll ever learn. Will you follow the 4 rules, or will you wait for the market to teach them to you the hard way? What is the hardest rule for you? 2. Follow cutting losses, letting winners run, waiting for your edge, or staying in cash? Comment below. I want to hear your experience. This is more than trading. And if you can master yourself, you will survive anything the market throws your way. Thank you for watching, and remember, survive first, earn later.